Earnestly podcast coming to you January 17, 2021. It is a super Wildcard Weekend wrap-up. It's going to be a short one. I just want to wrap up and touch on some of the games last week, this past weekend. We still got one more coming up on tonight. Monday Night Football playoff game is weird. Not a big fan of it necessarily, but you know what? It's here. It's going to happen, and I'm gonna take it in and enjoy it. Of course, this podcast, the Earnestly Podcast Network now. You can subscribe to any podcast catcher. Slide in the course and subscribe and check out all the shows. I was going to wait until Tuesday to do the Football's Awesome podcast to kind of dive into stuff, but I honestly can't wait. I'm fired up right now about the NFL and about the playoffs. This weekend was actually one of the more underwhelming wildcard weekends we've had in history. Wildcard weekend tends to be very exciting for the most part. Unfortunately, we have 3 blowouts already. And I feel like if certain teams were not in the playoffs, not to knock them, they deserve to be there, they earned it. But if certain teams weren't in there, I got probably a little more competitive games. But it is what it is. It is what it is. They did their jobs, and that's fine. By the way, this is only audio only. Though we do put all our shows on YouTube as well, too. Our Earnestly Media on YouTube. This is audio only because I'm actually in the car on the way to work. So I want to get this in now while I could. So let's go. Let's just run down quickly to the games that happened on Saturday first. First game was the Bengals and the Raiders. Bengals win their first playoff game in 31 years. The last time Bengals won a playoff game, I was 11 years old. Yeah, 11 years old. 11 at that time. And when I think of Joe Burrow, you know what comes to mind. I said this before, back a couple years ago when he was at LSU. I said Tom Brady. And I still feel like it's Brady, but I think it's even more so Joe Montana, and not because of it's partially because of the skill set. Because Joe Montana actually was, for a guy who was as accurate as he was actually pretty mobile as well too. But I get Joe Montana vibes. The guy just gets it. He's not a guy. The thing that with Joe Burrow that always got to me, would really made me feel he'd be a great quarterback, and not just in college but also in the pros, was it wasn't that he was the most talented guy. He wasn't the fastest guy. He had the best arm or the most accurate guy in the world. But Joe Burrow, to me, always felt like a guy that had control of the room. Like, you always knew that no matter what, he had control of the huddle. You always knew that no matter whether a game was going bad or good, whatever it may be, Joe Burrow always felt like he had control of what's going on. Like, he had control of chaos. Like, everything seemed to be calm around him. And that's the kind of vibe I get with Tom Brady for 20-something years. That's the vibe that Joe Montana always had. You remember the whole same Joe Montana in Super Bowl 23 where they make that game-winning 98-yard touchdown to win the Super Bowl, and he's making a joke about John Candy being the other side of the end zone, things like that. Joe Burrow has that kind of same vibe, and that's why I think Joe Burrow is going to be really, really good because he gets it. He gets the big picture. Bengals are going to be great going forward. So they win their first playoff game in over 3 decades. But I will say this much though: hats off to the Raiders. This has been a chaotic year for the Raiders. I mean, chaotic is probably just a word to be using because considering that you had your head coach fired in the middle of the year, you had obviously your receiver doing some dumb shit, speeding and killing somebody who's gonna be in jail for a little bit, and whatnot, and all these other things happening, and the Raiders still somehow, some way find a way to back in the playoffs, do their job. And can we put some respect on Derek Carr's name also too? Derek Carr is one of the most underrated quarterbacks we've had in the last decade. Like, Derek Carr, he's not Mahomes, he's not Rodgers, but dude, he's like, if you tell me that, if you sold me right now that Derek Carr is a top 10 quarterback in the league, honestly, I wouldn't argue with that. I wouldn't argue that at all. I think Derek Carr is definitely in that 8 to 12-ish, but definitely considered to be a top 10 quarterback in the league. I think Derek Carr's great. I think Derek Carr's I don't know why, I know why these rumors about the Raiders like trying to move on from him is actually a thing. Like, Derek Carr, he goes to any team right now in the league. They're a playoff team. I think Derek Carr's that good. So, but hats off to the Raiders for a really good season. That we thought after the wheels fall off, we thought would fall off the hinges, and they still figured it out. So, all right, the second game was of course the Patriots and the Bills on Saturday Night Football. That game wasn't even close. Obviously, it was never a game. That game was done for the word go. Like Buffalo, I'm still kind of like on the fence of Buffalo. Bigger picture, Like, I like this team, obviously. But, it was clear, and I said this even after that game, because the Patriots at Monday Night Football, when they lost, that they were still a better team. It's just the conditions was what made that game a little wonky, and yet the Bills in that game were still only one play to win that game. 2 for 3 for Mac Jones in that game. That was an anomaly. Look, I think the Bills are still are going to be a problem, obviously. As they're going to play, I believe they play in Kansas City. But I do think, Buffalo's going to be a problem. The Patriots, they did have to do, obviously. They bounced back this year, winning 10 games. I didn't like what I saw the last month, and I think maybe we got a little bit overhyped about the Patriots with that winning streak middle of the year, where they started flirting with the number 1 seed, and then they kind of fell back to earth a little bit in the last month. Mac Jones is going to be okay, I think. I think Mac Jones will be okay. Remember, he's a rookie. Not everybody gets it in the first year in the same way. I do think he'll get it. I think he'll be okay going forward. I think once you have another camp, obviously got Bill Belichick, you trust him, you trust the staff there. I don't know if Josh McDaniels going anywhere either, to be honest with you. So I think another year of Mac Jones. I think maybe you get another receiver. Maybe get another in free agency maybe. And I think the Pats will be right here next year. The defense is in the lead, obviously, too. So you got to give the Pats credit, obviously. And that's that, man. A little bit disappointing end to the year for the Patriots, but honestly, and we'll talk about this on the Football's Awesome podcast. We do letter grades for all these teams. I think it was still a successful year for the Patriots. So, all right, Sunday games: Bucks, Eagles. Never a game, honestly. That game was done for to go. The Bucks concerned, obviously, because a lot of injuries. They came into the playoffs with a lot of injuries anyway, and they got a few more in this game. The offensive line nicked up, obviously, too. We'll see how that goes next week. Brady, of course, was Brady in his bag all day. Tom Brady, the GOAT. We know how it goes, and no need to answer that question. The bigger question right now is the Eagles. I love Jalen Hurts. I love Jalen. I think Jalen Hurts is one of the most amazing human beings on the planet. But I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. And after what I saw on Sunday, the game looked too big for him. Now, I'm not saying I'm rooting against him to not have the starting job. If I'm the Eagles, I'll give him another year. Because look, this Eagles team more than overperformed this year. I mean, this team was supposed to be one of the worst teams in the league this year. Nick Sirianni, good job by Nick Sirianni for a job well done as first year's coach. Should be in the coaching discussion. I'm not saying he's going to win it, but should be in discussion. But Jalen Hurts, I mean, as a great person he is, the moment looked too big for him. He looked terrible on Sunday. And it's called for what it is. Like I said, I hope he gets another chance next year as a starting quarterback. Hope he gets another chance, and hope we'll see what happens with this team if they can continue to move forward. But the Eagles obviously have arrived a little bit. I mean, granted, like I said, weak schedule. The 0-6 against, well, we include yesterday's game, 0-7 against teams over 500. But you don't have control of who you play. Your schedule's your schedule. And the Eagles had a really good year. Eagles fans should be proud of what they did this year, honestly. So, but Jalen Hurts, hopefully, you'll see what happens next year, and hopefully he has another chance to crack at it to be the starter. All right, next game here, game of the weekend, obviously, right now so far. Cowboys, Niners. Niners win, of course. But if you watch that first quarter of that game, you're wondering how's this game even close in the first place? Because the Cowboys look lifeless in the first quarter. Absolutely lifeless. So the fact that even in that game and a chance to win it late, maybe if you're a Niners fan, it should scare you a little bit. Maybe if you're a Cowboys fan, you should be a little disappointed also. The Niners, like I said, I think the Niners are the most dangerous team in the NFC. I do think also, Green Bay, I said this last week on all the podcasts that of all the teams in that bracket in the NFC, the Packers should fear the Buccaneers, especially the Niners. But I think yesterday, though, I'm not even sure about that anymore, to be honest with you. Like, I think the Packers, obviously the Niners are a great match with the Packers, but if the Niners stay off the gas like that against Aaron Rodgers and this Packers team, which I believe is the best Rodgers-led team of his career because of the balance they have, the Packers should win that game fairly comfortably. As for the Cowboys, started sluggish, no life early, you have a chance to win it late. To me, that's a problem. There's rumors going into the game that Mike McCarthy could be fired after the game. if the Cowboys don't have a good run. I'm not advocating for McCarthy to be fired at all. I think he's a good coach. I think maybe he's a little bit dated at this point now. But it wouldn't shock me if Jerry Jones just gets panicked and says, you know what, we're done. Like, we were not prepared yesterday, and we could have won that game. Had we played better in the first quarter, we could have won that game. I mean, it wouldn't shock me at all. Like I said, I'm not advocating for it. I'm not saying it should happen. In fact, I'm a believer in stability. Cowboys won 12 games this year, so I give them credit there. But, you know, it's the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys are the most, are the flash team, the America's team. They're the biggest team in the entire league. So with that comes heavy expectations. And the Cowboys, as I said, coming in the year, to call this a successful year for the Cowboys, they had to win a playoff game. At least one playoff game. And they didn't do that. You know? Like I said, hats off to the Cowboys for fighting late and having a chance to win the game late in the game before that, you know, quarterback sneak that they converted and then they couldn't get in the playoff. But if the Cowboys were actually in that game, actually played better in the first quarter, they may win that game because San Francisco played well early and then they went off the gas. So, you know, I mean, well, I'll blame coaching for that, yes, because obviously coaching comes out of coaching and preparedness and whatnot. And like I said, it wouldn't shock me if McCarthy was fired. Not advocating for it, of course, but it wouldn't shock me. Not at all. So, and finally, the game last night, again, another blowout, not even close. First quarter, no, both teams, it was close. No one scored in the first quarter. Then you get that fumble 6 by T.J. Watt in the early second quarter. And then after that, the game was over. After that, the Chiefs realized who they were. Oh, okay. We can't see Chiefs, motherfucker. We can't see the Chiefs. I'm Pat Mahomes. You know, and the game was over at that point. So, we saw the old Chiefs last night. I mean, no surprise last night, obviously. Steelers are 13-point dogs. Underdogs last night. So, no surprise last night. But you know, but it goes to show you the Chiefs, though, too. It's weird because, like, they do play down opponents at times. And you saw in the first quarter. And after that, you know, can they do that against Tennessee, against the Bengals, against the Bills? You know, you can't do that. You know, last night's probably also Ben Roethlisberger's last game. Definitely a Steeler, probably of his career. He should retire. He was terrible. He's a Hall of Famer, obviously, but he had a horrible year. Got to the touchdown last night on social media, and I'll talk about this more with Kyle on the Football's Also podcast. We'll do some game report on Tuesdays, not on Wednesdays, about whether or not you add a Aaron Rodgers, you add a Russell Wilson to the Steelers team right now. I firmly believe this. That you add those two guys to this team right now, that this team is immediately one of the favorites in the AFC, possibly winning the Super Bowl. Because this is a really good roster. Elite defense. Now, O-line's a little bit average. I'll admit, O-line's a little average. But they got playmakers. And they got Najee Harris at running back. You know, Big Ben can't make certain throws down the field. You saw yesterday. Can't do it. Russell Wilson still can. So can Aaron Rodgers. That's my point. You know? I think you add a guy, and you add Derek Carr to this team probably. They're in the mix to go to the Super Bowl. Like, we talk about all the depth in the AFC. Depth, this and that. And the AFC was deep and this and that. That's my point. This team had bad quarterback play most of the year, and they made the playoffs anyway, despite that. So you tell me you add Aaron Rodgers or Big Ben or Russell Wilson to this team, you can't get 2-3 more wins? And 2-3 more wins get you number one seed in the AFC. That's my point. So, like I said, Big Ben is probably going to retire at some point. I don't see him come back. Definitely no more the Steelers. And they got questions next year. How they going to handle the quarterback situation? Are they going to go after a Rodgers if he's available, or Russell Wilson if he demands a trade, or Derek Carr if he does a trade, or Garoppolo? Because they're not good. They're not bad enough to draft a quarterback high. And this is also a weak quarterback draft. And obviously Mason Rudolph ain't the answer. We know that already. Like, come on now. So, all in all, a slightly underwhelming wildcard weekend. But I do think tonight's game, Rams-Cardinals, will be, I think it's going to be an exciting game, honestly. These teams are actually very familiar with each other. I think I see this go, I had the over this game. And I went 3-2 I picked this weekend. my wildcard pick. So I lost my half game, the Bengals game. I had Raiders covering, the Bengals covered by half point, and then I also had the a pick I changed this week was the I went to the over on the Niners Cowboys game and went under. I said stayed my original pick was at the under. So anyway, that's it for now. That's it. Like I said, Earnestly Podcast Network. Get in the course. Look up for the podcast this week. Gonna have Football's Awesome next day or so. And till then, I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.